Hello there, my name is Ollie, and in this video I'm going to show you how the lazy initialization pattern works by walking you through a real-world problem it was created to solve and how it would solve it. But before I get to any code, let's talk about the lazy initialization pattern. So, what is it? Well, it's a creational pattern that is all about delaying an object's creation until it's needed. This is usually achieved by adding additional code into a getter that checks for the object's presence. If the project isn't present, it's created, optionally using a loader, and cached as a property within an object. Delaying object creation in this way can help improve the speed by spreading out resource usage. This particular pattern is used fairly extensively in a lot of other patterns. If you've been watching along with these videos, you will have already seen an example of this pattern. In the singleton video, I walked through creating a class called alerts, which has a static property instance and a method called getInstance. In this example, the property, which acts as a cache, is only initialized when the method needs to return the value. While this is an excellent example of it being used, another video in this series doesn't include this pattern, but could be improved by doing so. At the end of the abstract factories video, I gave an example of using a factory method to create an instance of the required factory. In that video, the factories were created to take a data array and then return an object, validating the data in another method which throws an exception if the data is invalid. They store nothing, there's no caching in properties or other behavior that would result in any form of state. Because of this, having multiple instances of each implementation wouldn't achieve anything but using more resources. We could make each factory a singleton to ensure that only one instance of each existed at any one time, but that's an unnecessary complication. As I mentioned in the singleton video, one of the most significant issues is that it is often used where it isn't required. We can achieve similar functionality here by implementing the lazy initialization pattern. First, we'd add a property to the base block factory class to contain the instances. Then we'd swap out the match statement in the make method for a switch statement. Then, just like in the singleton getInstance method, we'll check to see if an instance exists in the property, creating one if it doesn't, and then returning the value from the array. This is known as a lazy factory, and it combines three patterns. The factory method pattern, which is the static make method itself that was covered in the previous videos. The multiton pattern, which is a singleton pattern variation, which allows multiple varying instances to be created using a map, which is an array in PHP's case. This would be the self factories property. And finally, the lazy initialization pattern, which only creates an instance when it is required. So far, all of the examples have dealt with simple, non-complex objects, so the creation logic was able to stay within the methods performing the initialization. However, when you need to create a new object that requires some complex logic, you can create a loader. A loader is simply something external that loads and returns the objects for you. It could be a method, but it is often an external class or object, typically a factory or builder. Due to the definition of a loader being so vague, it's hard to give an example because it could be anything. You could use any of the videos within this series that cover creational patterns, for example. So with that in mind, I'm not going to go through and create one here because I feel that it might make this seem more complicated than is necessary. As with everything, these are just templates and guides. You're free to experiment with them, and due to the lazy initialization pattern being a more conceptual pattern, there's plenty of room to play. And that marks the end of this video. This has been a walkthrough of the lazy initialization pattern, what it is, how it works, and the problems it was designed to solve. I hope you found this helpful. Thanks for watching this video. If you're interested in seeing more, remember to subscribe, and as always, if you have any feedback or questions, you can reach me on Twitter, Discord, or by email. Happy coding!